Want to absolutely demolish Elden Ring bosses like this? Today I'm going to show you the simplest and fastest way to turn even the toughest bosses into dust with a single hit. In this video, you'll learn how to pull off these crazy one-shots, where to find all the gear you need, and how to get so strong that even Eddie Hall would be jealous. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's dive in. Alright, so if you want the secret to any one-shot build, it's actually pretty straightforward. You just need to stack your damage so high that the boss's entire health bar disappears in one hit. Sounds geniusly, right? But how to do it? In Elden Ring, you've got two kinds of damage. First is base damage. That's what your weapon gives you straight up, plus scaling from your stats and upgrades. Second is buff damage, all the boosts you get from flasks, talismans, armor sets, and other stuff that cranks up your hits. On the left side of the screen, you see how much buff damage you can stack in the base game, and on the right with the DLC. Pretty wild numbers, right? But since the max buff multiplier is capped, the real trick is picking a weapon with massive base damage. And to save you time, that weapon is the Giant Crusher. Its base stats are insane. It scales to S with strength, and the bonks hit harder than a tree in Tom and Jerry's. Alright, we've got our main weapon ready. Now it's time for the secondaries. And we're not talking just one. No, you'll need 4 secondary weapons to make this setup broken. First up, a shield on your back for that extra damage boost. Second, the Soul Stifler to debuff bosses and squeeze out more damage. Third, a dagger with seppuku so you can trigger bleed on yourself for that sweet extra bonus. And finally, a seal for casting all your buffs. Now for the Ash of War on your Giant Crusher, there's only one real choice: Royal Knight's Resolve. This beauty gives you a massive 80% damage boost to your next charged attack. Nothing else in the entire game even comes close.
Now it is fashion time. Your armor. For fashion, you're gonna need 3 helmets: white mask, black dumpling, and mushroom crown. Each one gives you about a 10% boost under different effects. If you've got the DLC, grab 2 gauntlets, one for madness and one for poison, plus the Rakshasa set for even more damage. But if you don't, no worries. Just rock a solid armor set that can handle poison, something like the Veterans set, and keep on bonking. From armor to talismans, because this is where your damage really takes off. The core talismans for this build: Axe Talisman, for 10% charged attack damage. Red Feathered Branch Sword, for 20% more damage when your HP is low. Two-Handed Sword Talisman, for an extra 15% while two-handing your weapon. Fire Scorpion Charm, for boosting fire damage on your flaming Giant Crusher. Elden Ring wouldn't be Elden Ring if things were simple, right? So ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Effect Talismans. There are 4 of them if you've got the DLC, and only 2 in the base game. Each one gives you a fat plus 20% damage when you're under a specific effect: sleep, madness, poison, or bleed. To make them work, you actually need to put that effect on yourself. Once you do, you'll see a little icon pop up on your screen. And congrats! That means the buff is active, and you've just stacked another 20% damage. Alright, the last thing we need is to set up the flask and buffs. For buffs, we'll be using 2 options. The budget setup: Flame, Grant Me Strength, plus Commander's Standard. Or the stronger option: Blood Boil Aromatic, plus Commander's Standard. For the Flask of Wondrous Physic, we will also have 2 setups. Without DLC, Flame Shrouding Cracked Tier and Spiked Cracked Tier. With DLC, swap the Spiked tier for the Blood-Sucking Cracked tier. So, when the setup's finally done, the big question pops up. How do we actually juggle 8 talismans and 3 helmets? This is where the real boss of the build comes in: the buff rotation. The moment you start testing this build in an arena or against a boss, your buffs are going to start wearing off, and suddenly your 1-shot turns into a 2-shot, or even a 3-shot build. That's why, my dear friends, I've prepared 3 main buff rotations for you: Easy, Standard, and Esports. Let's start with the easy one. First, put all the unnecessary stuff into your chest, and leave only the buffs from the list. Your gear should look like this. And if you've got everything ready, it's time to start the easy buff rotation. Here's how it goes. You will start with your Flask of Wondrous Physic, then drop a stone under your feet to trigger Madness. After that, apply Commander's Standard and Blood Boil Aromatic. Swap your Madness Talisman for a Bleed Talisman. Swap the Black Dumpling Helmet for the White Mask. Use Seppuku on your dagger. Cast Royal Knight's Resolve on your Giant Crusher. And finally, swing. And that's it! The easy version of the rotation. Liked it? Then let's move on to the standard setup. The standard version looks almost the same, but this time we add a poison swap to trigger the buffs from the Mushroom Crown and the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation Talisman. Here is what it looks like. Now for the esports version, and trust me, bring a towel. Actually, better bring two, because this rotation is harder than Radon himself.
Here's the step-by-step. Lower your HP to half using Seppuku. Pop a Lulling Branch to trigger the sleep effect. Use the Madness Stone in a half-sleep bar. Drink your flask of Wondrous Physic. Right after this, both sleep and madness should trigger. Ideally, madness hits right after sleep to wake you up. Use Bloody Flesh right after bleed procs to boost your damage. Trigger Seppuku again for bleed bonuses. Cast Blood Boil Aromatic as your body buff. Use your Commander's Halberd for the aura buff. Swap your talismans. Sleep, Lord of Blood's Exaltation. Madness, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. Swap helmets. Madness Hood to Mushroom Crown. Eat some raw meat dumplings to heal back up. Put the white mask back on and trigger Seppuku again for bleed bonuses. Apply a debuff with your halberd, either before stepping into the arena if the boss rushes in, like Radon, or right after you're inside. Finish with Royal Knight's Resolve, and boom, you're a certified one-shot machine. Phew, that wasn't easy. But now you know everything you need to pull off this build. Only one question remains. Where do you actually find all this stuff? To save your time, we prepared simple maps that show the exact locations of every item in each zone. Just pause the video, take a screenshot, and follow the route. We've even included maps for the DLC, so you won't get lost there either. It honestly took a lot of time and effort to create these maps, so if you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Now, after hours of grinding, let's sit back and enjoy one-shotting bosses to some epic music and memes. And that was the Giant Crusher one-shot build. If you'd like to see one-shots for the DLC bosses and turn them into toys in our hands, drop a DLC in the comments. Huge thanks for watching. If this guide helped turn Elden Ring into your personal one-hit simulator, smash like, share your craziest one-shot moments below, and ring the bell for more. This was Hawk Live Gaming. See you in the next video.